Welcome back to Long Delays Hobbies. I have in front of me, hot off the presses, the new supplements for Middle-earth strategy battle game, the War of the Rohirrim, based off of the anime movie that came out last year. It's been a long time coming. I wish it would have come out earlier this year, maybe in like March or April, but nevertheless, it is here now. I have not even opened this book up to look at it. It does have some battle damage as my toddler got her hands on it, so there's already some cracks in it, but that's fine. So let's open it up and take a look. So we've got an introduction. It looks like we've got a campaign with some scenarios and some hobby section. Destruction of Edoras, some terrain, a rabid Mumak, looks like some paint guides. That's kind of cool. And this is a really neat picture of Helm Hammerhand after the siege of the Hornburg. That's kind of cool. We've got some artwork of Helm from the film. So here's our introduction, kind of giving us an overview of what's actually in the book. We've got 11 narrative play scenarios, starting with the fight between Helm and Freka, destruction of Edoras. We've got a campaign system that allows you to link the scenarios together. Some paint and hobby guides. Okay, this is telling us what's in the scenario, the hobby guides at the end. We've got destroyed houses, hill tribes encampment. Tells you how to build the rabid Mumak, and how to paint the Warriors of Rohan, Heraldry of Rohan, that's cool. And the Hill Tribesmen. Okay. War of the Rohirrim campaign. So this is telling us how to link the campaign, how to link these different scenarios into a campaign. That's kind of cool. So it's scenario bonus. So it gives you scenario bonus. After each scenario has been completed, note down which side won that scenario, good or evil. This is important as depending on who was victorious, there may be a bonus or penalty to a certain side in a future scenario. For example, if the good side is victorious in an enemy revealed scenario, then the good side will receive a bonus in the Plains of Edoras scenario. These bonuses reflect the advantage of success and the edge it will give either side in the future. Okay, so it looks like depending on who wins, later on you get just a little bonus. So to claim a throne, so I think that's the one where Freka and Helm are fighting. If good wins, Hera can declare a free heroic march once. And if evil wins, once per game from turn 2 onwards, at the beginning of the priority phase, evil can automatically count as having won the role. Oh, wow. That's really good. Additionally, if this turn is used, the good models cannot declare heroic moves. Wow. It's wild. And they have them for all of the scenarios. Let's see, 10. Oh, so there's 11 scenarios. Looks like they have them for 10 of them. Well, because I guess in the 11th scenario, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get bonuses for the final scenario. That's cool. So let's take a look at this scenario. To claim a throne. We have a little overview here. And the miniatures on display here. It has Freka and the new Helm Hammerhand model that just was released. Participants are Helm Hammerhand and Freka. That's it. It's just a one-on-one. And it's just a 1-inch deployment, so the two of them just get deployed. It's just a one-on-one duel. So Helm is deployed wholly within the center, and then you deploy Freka wholly within 1 inch of the center. So they just go at each other and fight. And there's some special rules here. So neither of them have any armor or weapons, but they're not considered unarmed. First time the duel is a tie, Freka wins, even regardless of fight value. And Evil also has priority on the first turn. Freka improves his attacks to 3. I think he normally only has 2 attacks. Freka rolls a 6 to wound, and the wound is successful. He has struck a knockout blow, and Helm is rendered unconscious. Cool. Scenario 2 is a new threat on Rohan's borders. So this is the scene in which Hera and Freyalf are wandering around, just looking. They've heard about Easterlings and so on, just wandering around on the borders of Rohan, and so they're looking to scout it out, and they end up running into a Mumak. So the artwork has the rabid Mumak, Olwen, Hera, and Freyalf. The participants are Hera, Freyalf, Olwen, and Leaf. And the evil side is just rabid Mumak. So it looks like it's just your heroes fighting against the Mumak. It's interesting that there's no Watcher in the Water, but I guess it kind of makes sense. It'd be a little bit boring, because the Watcher in the Water would be not on the good or the evil side. Okay, the rabid Mumak. Rabid Mumak uses the War Mumak of Harad profile, but it does not have a Howdah or Haradrim commander. It gains Fearless and increases its move to 10. Okay. Overall, that's not bad. When the Rabid Mumak would suffer a wound in the fight phase, roll a d6. On a 4-up, the wound is negated. Wow. That's pretty good. Destructive Rampage. If the Mumak comes into contact with any trees whilst trampling, rather than stopping it, will inflict impact hits on the trees. Okay. Well, trees have a defense of 7 and 2 wounds, so that's interesting. You could kind of use that in your regular games if you wanted to. It's interesting they give trees a stat line. Southron's Horns. Hera can blow the Southron Horn at the start or the end of her activation. If she does, Rabid Mumak must take an intelligence test. If the test is failed, Rabid Mumak must pivot and move D3 plus 1 inches directly towards her, even if it's already moved. If the test is failed, Rabid Mumak has not activated this turn. It must end its move closer to Hera. So does it trample? I'm not sure. The Rabid Mumak comes into contact with another model during this move, it will trample as normal. Oh, the Beast in the Lake. Okay, so they do kind of have the Watcher in the Water, they just don't have you buy the model. Good models may not enter the lake for fear of being dragged into the depths by the creature that lurks there. In addition, the first time each turn the Rabid Mumak ends a move within 6 inches of the lake, roll a d6. On a 1 to 2, the waters remain undisturbed. On a 3+, the beast lurking in the water strikes and drags Mumak into the depths. Okay, so if you're playing evil, you want to stay away from the lake. And if you're playing good, here's the deployment zone here. Here, the lake is here. You want to kind of move. It's kind of an interesting scenario. If you're Hera, you want to kind of back away this way into the lake and blow this horn, the Southron horn, to get the Mumak to move towards you. Obviously, if you're the evil player, you don't want to do that. You want to stay as far away from this lake as possible to stop from getting dragged into the depths. Overall, it's kind of a cool scenario. An enemy revealed. So, right in the movie, right after the fight with the Mumak, Hera gets captured by General Targ. So this seems to be during the rescue, when Olwen and Freyalof go and rescue her. So the participants are Hera, Freyalof, and Olwen on the good side. On the evil side, we've got Wolf, 24 Hill Tribesmen, with a bunch of different war gear. So, and the setup is Wolf's quarters are kind of in the middle, and it's a 3x3. And both players alternate Hill Tribesmen all throughout the board. And then after all the Hill Tribesmen have been deployed, the good player places Olwen and Freyalof anywhere on the western board edge, and Wolf and Hera are kept aside for later. Special rules, Night Watch. Okay, so this uses the Sentry rules. Okay. Prize prisoner. So in order to free Hera, Olwen or Freyalof must be standing in base contact with either the northern or southern side of Wolf's quarters during the end phase of a turn and not be engaged in combat. So you have to kind of sneak up here without being seen because of the Night Watch rules. Or fighting their way through a bunch of Hill Tribesmen. And after she's freed, all of them are going to be able to see them, so the Sentry rules will be gone. And Hera will be unarmed. That's unfortunate. Ride to Edoras. If a good model ends activation in base contact with the stables, remove it from play. They have secured a horse. Okay, so that's cool. I wonder if... technically speaking, Hera does not have her special named horse. So, are you supposed to get like a separate, Kit Bash your own Hera with a different horse? Maybe I'm overthinking it. But yeah, if you get Hera or any of the other models here, you can then swap out the foot model with the mounted model. That's kind of a thematic. Wolf's Fury. When the alarm is raised, place Wolf in base contact with the northern side of his quarters. He may act as normal from that point onward. The alarm is raised as a result of Hera being freed. Place him in base contact with the side of the building opposite to where Hera has been placed. On the first turn of the game, the good player may choose who has priority. Pretty cool. The Plains of Edoras. So this is the big. This is the beginning of the Siege of Edoras. Where they're all where Helm has gathered all of his troops, and looks like they're, according to this quote, "Where is Thorn? He is late. His men should be covering the eastern flank." So they're waiting for Thorn's troops to gather, and the fight is in the early stages. So you've got the 12-inch deployment zone for good on one side, and in the middle of the board you got a 6-inch deployment zone for evil. And our participants will be Helm Hammerhand, Holeth, Hama, Captain on Horse, 6 Royal Guard, 24 Riders, and 24 Warriors. And on Evil, we've got Wolf, Targ, 3 Hill Tribes Chieftains, 72 Hill Tribesmen. Wow. And 3 War Mumaks. Yikes. 72 Hill Tribesmen. It looks like the studio doesn't even have that many Hill Tribesmen painted. Usually in these big scenarios, they'll have them all laid out. They'll actually show you what the scenario looks like, but they didn't in this case. Still a cool looking scenario though. Yeah, and as is usual for these big scenarios, there's not as many special rules. So the only special rules are, well, first of all, the game only lasts for 10 turns, which is good because otherwise it would kind of be a slog. The good player wins if they're able to prevent all the Mumakil from moving off the eastern board edge. So you just want to tie up the Mumakil for 10 turns. The evil player wins if 2 of Mumakil move off the board edge. Special rules, Wolf's Cunning. At the end of the evil player's second move phase, evil player moves all 3 Mumakil, Wolf and General Targ, and the remaining Hill Tribesmen onto the board. Okay, so you actually, if you're evil, you miss an entire turn. So, well, really 2 turns, because it says the end of the move phase. So, if you're good, you need to stop them for 8 turns. The King's Riders, whilst they are within 12 inches of Helm and have the Cavalry keyword, Riders of Rohan get a bonus of +1 to fight while they charge. That's pretty good. So you're gonna be winning your fights. If you're tying. So you're just kind of looking to roll those 6s. I mean, you're gonna outnumber the regular troops. That's not gonna be an issue. But of course, you're gonna be trying to stay away from those move max, or at least just throw a bunch of dudes into them to sacrifice them. So that you can just tie them up. Lord Thorn's Betrayal. So this is just a little scenario of Lord Thorn turning on Hera and her brothers in the stables. So on the good side, you've got Hera, Leaf, 6 warriors. On the evil side, you got Thorn and the Rohirrim traders. Okay, so it will last until one force achieves their objectives. So the good player wins if Lord Thorn is slain. An evil player wins if Hera is slain. Pretty straightforward. So Hera is unarmed. If Hera moves into base contact with the pitchfork marker, she's no longer considered unarmed. So I don't know, does she get a pitchfork? Or is she just not unarmed? Yeah, I guess. Let's see. If the evil player places a so the evil player replaces those pitchfork markers. So I guess she just no longer gets like the -1 dual roll. And -1 to wound that you get from being unarmed, but she still doesn't have her weapons. Easy prey. When Lord Thorn moves, he must always charge Hera, if possible. Additionally, Rohirrim traders may not charge Hera, so they're just kind of fighting each other. Kind of like they do in the film. They're fighting each other while Hera and Thorn are fighting. Race for help. Warriors of Rohan may not activate until Leaf has raised the alarm. When the alarm is raised, if during the end phase, Leaf is within 3 inches in line of sight of any of the Warriors of Rohan. Oh, so earlier, easy prey. So they cannot charge Hera, but they can charge Leaf. If an evil model charges and makes a shooting attack against a warrior of Rohan and does not slay them, the alarm is raised. Loyal Steed, once per game, at any point during Hera's activation, she may call upon a Sheer to aid her in the battle with Lord Thorn. If she does, Lord Thorn is immediately knocked prone. That's cool, because at the end of the fight, her horse, kind of like it shows here, her horse just kicks him down. I like that rule. Streets of Edoras. So this is during the scene where the Rohirrim and the Hill Tribesmen are kind of going crazy. They've broken down the walls and are burning the city down. So our deployment zone, we've got good, has a 6-inch circle in the middle, and evil has 2 12-inch deployment zones on either side. It's on a 4x4 board. So our good participants are Halath, Hama, Hera, all of whom are on foot, and then 24 warriors. On the evil side, we've got Wolf, Targ, 36 Hill Tribesmen, one Mumek, as well as the Rohirrim who are riding the Mumek. Okay, and it's on a city board. And the good player wins if the Mumek has been slain and Halath is still alive. Evil player wins if the Mumek is still alive and Halath has been slain. Pretty simple. Special rule, Spirit of the Ancestors. For the duration of the scenario, Halath gains the Fearless and Hatred Mumek and Mumek Bane. Okay, that's a new one. Mumek Bane. Monstrous Rampage. If the Mumek comes into contact with a building while trampling, rather than stopping, it will inflict impact hits onto the building. Each building has defensive 8 and 3 wounds. A chance for revenge. For the duration scenario, Wolf is armed with a bow. Wolf must reroll fail to hit and 2 wounds while making a shooting attack at the target's health. That's cool. That's reflective of the fact that he's actually one who takes down Haleth. So it kind of encourages you to be the one to shoot Haleth. Also kind of makes you want to kit bash a wolf with a bow. Okay, next scenario is Edoras Burns. So this is the scenario where the Hill Tribesmen, led by Wolf, have now taken Edoras and they're burning the city down. So we've got a good deployment zone of 6 inches, kind of offset from the center. And we've got two different evil deployment zones. One's 18 inches and one's 12 inches on a 4x4 board. Good participants are Helm, Hama, Hera, Captain, 6 Royal Guard, and 12 Warriors. Evil participants are Wolf, General Targ, 2 Hill Tribes Chieftains, and 36 Hill Tribesmen. Let's see what our objectives are. Good. The game lasts until one player receives objective. The good player wins if at the end of a turn 6 or more good models have escaped. If Helm or Hera have been slain, the best result the good player can achieve is a draw. The evil player wins if at the end of a turn they have slain enough good models to stop the good player from being able to complete the objective. Okay, flee the city. If a good model ends its activation in base contact with the stables, they remove it from play. The model has 6, so basically they're just trying to get off the board. But models are coming in from both sides, so it would be kind of tough. You're gonna have to fight your way through. Whenever an evil model with the keyword is slain, put to one aside. At the end of each move phase, roll a d6 for each model. On a 4+, that model may enter the battlefield. Oh wow! So you start with 36 Hill Tribesmen, but they come back on a 4+. So that's crazy. And you do it in every move phase, so it's not just one time. Death's Door, Helm begins the game with no points of fate. Additionally, for the duration scenario, Helm has attacks reduced to 2 and loses the end of the fray special rules. So you can't really rely on Helm to just go in and cut down a bunch of Hill Tribesmen in this scenario. Next scenario is the Wrath of the Hammerhand. So this is the scenario where the good guys have retreated back to the Hornburg, and Helm Hammerhand has now gone into his Wraith of the Hornburg form and is just going out and beating up Hill Tribesmen at night. Interesting. I don't see any any ice trolls in this. Is that a different scenario? Yeah, okay, that's the next scenario. Okay. So our participants are Helm Hammerhand, Wraith of the Hornburg, a Hill Tribe Chieftain, and 24 Hill Tribesmen. And the Hill Tribe Chieftain goes in the middle, and a 2x2 deployment zone. And the good player wins if Helm has defeated all the models on the board. So he's got to kill 24 Hill Tribesmen, as well as that Hill Tribes Chieftain. And the evil player wins if Helm has been slain. If the Hill Tribes Chieftain escapes, the good player can only get a draw. Special rules, Night Watch. The scenario takes place at night, so we've got the night fighting rules. Escape. Once the alarm has been raised, the Hill Tribe's Chieftain may escape from the battle. Night after night, limb from limb. For the duration scenario, Helm has the Terror special rule. So if you've ever played with this version of Helm, you'll know that he is capable of killing 24 Hill Tribesmen. So if you're playing with Helm, you want to just run directly towards that Hill Tribe's Chieftain without being seen. Beast of the Long Winter. Participants are Hera, Helm Hammerhand, Shank, Rot, and the Snow Troll. So our deployment is Hera, and shake and rot in a 3-inch bubble in the middle. You've got the snow troll on one side and Helm on the other side. So the game will last until Helm is slain, or there are no evil models. So either Helm has to die, or all the snow troll and the 2 orcs have to die. Hera is unarmed. Caught unawares, the evil player has priority on the first turn. So pretty simple scenario. You're just kind of trying to run Helm directly into the middle. And if you're the evil player, you want to run the snow troll directly into the middle. Pretty simple. It's my type of scenario. Last stand of Helm Hammerhand. So this is after the fight with the snow troll and the orcs. Helm has kind of come out of hiding and is fighting a bunch of dudes on the bridge to the Hornburg. Some cool little posing here. So participants, Helm Hammerhand and Hera, that's it. And for evil, we got Wolf, General Targ, 24 Hill Tribesmen. So the good player wins if Hera manages to exit the board and Helm is still alive. So you're trying to get Hera off the board. Evil player wins if Hera is slain. If Hera manages to exit the board but Helm is slain before the game ends, the game is a draw. So the game lasts until Hera is slain or Hera exits the board through the gates of the Hornburg. So you're trying. There's like you've got your gates up here. So she needs to go this way. You can't exit in any direction. It has to go this way. The evil player trying to get your Hill Tribesmen here to kind of block her off. Maybe call Heroic March or something just to stop that. And then use like Wolf or Targ to kill her. Fierce Blizzard. Models cannot see further than 6 inches in this scenario. Shooting attacks will only ever hit on a natural roll of 6. So it's kind of like night fighting, but actually worse, because you don't have the +1 to wound if you do hit. Hero models may not... never mind what I just said. So you cannot declare Heroic March, so you can't just rush up to the middle. So never mind. Snowstorm. At the beginning of each model's activation, they must roll a d6 and consult the Snowstorm chart. Ooh, I love a good chart. This will dictate how far they can move. Okay, let's see. You roll a 1, model's activation immediately ends, and you can't declare any heroic actions or shoot. On 2, you can move only up to half of your move value, but you can't charge. On a 3, you can move up to half of your move value, but you can charge. On a 4, you move your full move value, but you can't charge. It's almost better to roll a 3 than a 4. On a 5, you can move your full move value, but you can't declare any heroics. On a 6, so the only thing you normally want to roll is a 6. This is kind of crazy. I like it though. The Fate of Rohan. So this is the scenario where I think Hera has kind of gone out. She's going to charge Wolf. And let's see which scenario. Yeah, she's charged Wolf in order to try to delay him from taking the Hornburg. Hera, Olwen, Freylof, a Captain of Rohan, and 24 riders are our participants. So this is, I guess, the end of the movie because Freylof is here. So there's probably a bit where Freylof appears, maybe. Wolf, General Targ, 2 chieftains, 60 hill tribesmen. Wow. Our objectives. So the game lasts for 10 turns. So this is kind of one of those really big epic battles. So the good player, this is kind of like Helm's Deep. So you kind of have scenario points, and at the end, whoever has the most scenario points wins. Good player scores a scenario point for each of the following: a General Targ, a chieftain that has been slain. Evil player scores 1 scenario point for each good hero that's been slain: Olwen and Freylof. You score 2 scenario points if Wolf has been slain, and the evil scores 2 if Hera has been slain. Good player scores 1 if less than 3 hill tribesmen move off the western board edge via the siege tower. So this is kind of that siege tower where there's that big drummer dude in the film who drops the siege engine on top of the wall. Evil player scores 1 scenario point if the hill tribe chieftain moves off the western board edge via the siege tower. Good player scores 1 scenario point if there are more good models than evil models in the southeast quarter of the board, where the little houses are. Evil player scores 1 scenario point. There are more than evil models than good in the southeast quarter of the board. Special rules bought and paid for. Should wolf be slain, or there be fewer than 32 evil models remaining on the board edge, the evil army will become broken. Even though an army does not normally become broken in narrative play scenarios. Marshal of the Mark. Whilst they're within 12 inches of Freyloff and have the cavalry keyword, Riders of Rohan gain a bonus of +1 to their fight value. Freyloff counts as wearing heavy armor and has the fearless special rule. Oh, that's cool. So he has Helm's armor in this scenario. Because in the films he is wearing Helm Hammerhand's armor in his helmet. Commander of the Hill Tribes. Dunland warrior models treat General Targ as a banner. Kind of wish he had that rule in match play. Models may only move onto the siege tower walkway from within 1 inches of the center of the board. It's a nice shot of the Mumak. These have probably been sitting around in the Games Workshop offices for many, many years. I doubt they painted them up for this supplement, but nevertheless, they're kind of cool. All right, so we've now reached the hobbying portion of the guide. So, Destruction of Edoras. This guide gives step-by-step instructions on how to use a Rohan House kit to create terrain. Represents the wanton destruction. So this is how to build those destroyed houses in the earlier scenario after Wolf and his army have kind of pillaged Edoras. And, if you want to just make a burned Rohan board, that's kind of cool. Okay, so sketch out the hole you intend to cut, and using a hobby saw, cut out the area. So you're just telling you to just basically cut out a piece with the hobby saw. Cut a piece of balsa wood. This is kind of cool. This is like White Dwarf used to have pieces like this, telling you how to make or change pieces of GW bought terrain. They've tended not to do this recently. They kind of only want you to use equipment and supplies that you buy from them. But this is kind of a nice change. So glue the support beams. So these are just, you can buy these things from any hobby store. Like around here, I have Michael's and Hobby Lobby. You can buy this stuff from there. Or of course you can get them from something like Amazon, but I prefer to buy in person. Support physical on-present stores. Even though they're changed, there's still physical people who work there rather than Amazon, which I have no idea where those people work. So now after you put the balsa wood on the base, then at that point it's just a model of priming. You would paint the house normally like you would a normal house, and then just put some black around the edges and paint the inside wood parts black. That's kind of cool. Oh, and it actually tells you how to paint them. Gives you a little instruction on how to paint them too. So, painting the building. Base coat the wooden areas with Carrick stone. Paint each individual plank with Baneblade bound, Storm Vermin fork, Gorthor brown, or Catachan flesh. So that's cool. To paint the fire and smoke damage, base coat the affected areas with Corvus black and then apply a dry brush of Dawnstone. That's cool. Okay, so I'm kind of interested in this because there's no GW kit for a Hill Tribes encampment. This just kind of looks like cloth that's been soaked in PVA glue, but let's see. Looks really cool though. Oh, it has instructions on how to make all the little bits and bobs around it too. So the little rocks and the campfires and so forth. So this is just tells you, okay, make the little rock, get the little rocks, put them in a circle, and get little tiny pieces of balls of wood. Put them in the middle and put little pebbles in the middle, and there you go. You got a campfire. And for the camp cooking frame, the bell from the Rohan Watchtower. Wow, that's very expensive. Just buy the Rohan Watchtower kit and then take the bell off. I mean, strictly speaking, if you already have that, it's not really, it's an optional piece. You don't even need that bell. So if you have it sitting around, sure. Some strings, some balls of wood, some super glue. Form the balls of wood into a triangle. And you've got a cooking pot. That's kind of cool. And now for the tents. Yeah, so it's just wet wipes and PVA glue to make those little tents. So balls of wood formed into a roughly, yurt or tent shaped pattern. Soak them in PVA glue. Tie the front together with a string so it kind of looks like an entrance. And you've got yourself a tent. The painting guide is also really helpful here. I won't go through it step by step, but you can see they actually tell you how to paint this. This is also really helpful just for painting your hill tribesmen as well. So next up, we've got a hobby guide on how to make the rabid mumak that appears in the film. So it looks really cool. I wish we would have gotten a new miniature for the rabid mumak. That would have been even better, but at the very least, they have told us how they modeled this one. The step-by-step guide shows you how to construct a rabid mumak from the War Mumak of Harad kit, including how to reposition the legs and head, and how to paint the rampant war beast. That's cool. So, start by assembling the mumak. So this is really not much of assembling here. So, you just put the head together, really, and take it off the sprue. Carefully cut the right leg of the mumak at the elbow and knee joints, and allowing you to raise. Okay, so you want to cut one of these legs off, legs and feet off. Cut the top of the neck to allow the head to be raised up. So these are steps you can also use even when you're not doing a rabid mumak, just making a regular war mumak, kind of wanting to make it look a bit different. So I really like this this guide. I have one mumak, which I'm in the middle of painting right now, but I would like to get one or two more. And I'm going to use this guide to make them look a little bit different. Using a razor saw, slice the majority of the way through the trunk. Okay, so this is to get this look here of having like a hole. You probably want to, I guess, cut this off and then use a drill. Yeah, drill 3 holes into the ends to create the pulp cavities. Sections can be cut out of the ears. Yep. So that's cool. Cut and sand away all of the howdah elements. So there's a lot of the howdah that's actually modeled onto the main body of the mumak. So yeah, they're wanting you to just cut all that away and cover it with twine. It looks like twine and putty, twine and green stuff, which makes sense. Using aluminum foil, recreate the shape of the mumak's back. Ooh, that could be a little bit tricky. Oh, okay, they've given you pictures, it looks like, of what it's kind of supposed to look like step by step. Okay, so here's the aluminum foil, and then you cover the aluminum foil with putty. Okay, or green stuff. Okay, interesting. So you kind of cut out little slices here. This is where I'm looking over at my mumak right now to try to imagine what this normally looks like. But yeah, this is where the howdah, the side of the howdah pokes into him, so you kind of cut that out. And replace it with green stuff and make it look like a scar or battle damage. That's kind of cool. As far as the base goes, the scenic base, of course, the scenic base has like weapons and orcs and horses and warriors all over it. So you can't really put a Rapid Mumak on top of that and have it be thematic. So it looks like they've cut most of that away and covered some of the rest of the green stuff. You could probably like leave a few like weapons maybe here or there, but for the most part, yeah, you want to completely cover that with green stuff almost entirely. So cool. Painting. Prime him gray. Skin. They've done the skin. I don't think Games Workshop, as far as I know, hasn't done a painting guide for the Mumak. Not recently. I'm sure they did way back when it first came out, but recently they haven't done one with like newer paints. You know, they when this was released, they had a whole different line of paints. So this might be the only modern paint guide for the Mumak, as far as I'm aware. So skin is storm vermin fur, the tusk and teeth with wraith bone, the rope with Carrick stone, leather with Rhinox hide, the tongue and dawnstone, eyes of Mephiston red. Oh, okay, yeah, because these eyes are red in the movie. Usually I don't think as elephant or Mumak eyes being red. And then dry brush with Dawnstone. Shade everything with Agrax Earthshade. So, okay, so they want you to do a brown wash rather than a black wash. Interesting. So it's not really actually that complicated of a model, even though it is big. But let's see, what about the tusks? Dry brush with Wraithbone. That seems like there's a step missing. Because how do you get from a Wraithbone to dry brush with Wraithbone? There's something missing there. All right. Next up, we've got a painting guide for the Warriors of Rohan. Okay, cool. I mean, I've already painted all of my Warriors of Rohan that came with the box, but I still think this is helpful. I mean, I'll probably get some more in the future. So, base coat the leather with Rhinox hide, Nuln oil, and then another Rhinox hide, and then Blood Reaver flesh, which is a mid-tone brown. And then for the boots, they are saying do like black, gray, light gray, and then a very light gray, Ministratum gray for the metals. Lead Belcher, Nuln oil, Stormhost silver. And then for the woods, Dryad bark. And for the skin, base coat with Kislev flesh. That's a very light tone. Interesting. And then go back, base coat with Kislev flesh, and then go wash with Reikland flesh shade. Go back over with Kislev flesh. I would think that's probably too light, but that's me. Shields. For the middle part, Retributal armor. It's called a shield boss. I didn't know that. I've never heard that before. Shield, and then shade with Reikland flesh shade, and then highlight with Storm of silver. The shield icons on Lord Everbrand's men are base coated with Celestial gray and then highlighted with Grayseer. Okay, interesting. I don't know who Lord Everbrand is. Warriors loyal to Lord Prime. The shield details are base coated with Administratum gray and highlighted with Corax white. Are these characters that are exclusive to the movie? Don't know these characters. Okay. Beards. For fair hair, base with Screaming Skull and then highlight with Agrax Earthshade and then go back over Screaming Skull. Darker blonde. This is kind of the recipe that I like to use. Zamisi Desert. Highlight with Ushapti Bone and go back over with Wraithbone. And for the horses, base coat with the horse with Zamisi Desert and shade with Agros Dunes. This is, I think this is Hama's horse. It's one of the two brothers. apply with the Zandri Dust, followed by highlight of Ushapti Bone. I like to do my horses brown, just because it's a lot more forgiving. But of course, in the movie, this particular horse is this light brown or tan color. Brown horses, base coat with Renix hide. Apply with a layer of Doombull brown. I guess that does look like Doombull brown. Highlighted with Gorthor brown. This is not the recipe I use for horses. I like to go base coat of Mournfang brown, and then highlight Agrix Earthshade. Or for darker horses, I use Cygor brown contrast paint. Heraldry of Rohan. Okay, this is cool. Lords of Rohan. Vast lords of Riddermark are ruled from the Golden Hall Meadow Cell by Helm Hammerhand. There are many noble lords who hold dominion over vast tracts of its rugged prairies and ancient forests. Okay, this is cool. Okay, so it kind of gives you different ways you can paint Rohan and still be lore accurate, because I know some people get fussy if you don't paint them green, essentially. If you don't use the box art, people will say like, oh, well, that's not how they're supposed to be. That's not how they are in the movie, which on the one hand, yes, that's not how they are in the movie, but on the other hand, like, you know, I don't imagine that every single warrior in Rohan wore green. Yeah. So Lord Thorn wears kind of red. He wears Wordbearish red. That's appropriate since he is a traitor. That's kind of cool. Frailoff. He also wears red, but it's like more bright, highlighted more brightly. So he's got like orange in there, with some black mixed in. That's kind of cool. Lord Grem here of Westimnet. We've got some purples, it looks like. Yeah, base coat in burgundy with purple highlights. Lord Fright. This is the more traditional scheme. Yeah, the outside of the cloaks follow the same methods as cloaks for Lord. So the cloaks are purple. The inside of the cloaks are green. Okay. And Lord Prime has kind of a blue and like a light blue, dark blue scheme. It looks like, or light blue and it looks like black maybe. So yeah, base coat the cloaks in Abbott and black. Yeah, so cool. Lord Everbrand. This is a kind of a mid-tone blue cloak, and then it looks like the tunic is like a brown. So that's cool. Okay, Hill Tribesmen. So this will be a little bit more helpful for me personally. I've only painted about a half of my Hill Tribesmen, so maybe I'll actually use this. So the cloth, they're wanting you to paint in Skavenblight Dinge and Targo Raid Shade. I'm not familiar with that color. That might be a contrast paint. And then go back over with Stormvermin Fur. One thing I like about the Hill Tribesmen is that you can kind of mix this up, so you can paint one gray, the next one brown, the next one, you know, darker brown. So, and they all kind of look mishmash because they're just a bunch of random guys. They even give you two options for fur. So the lighter fur option is Steel Legion Drab. The darker fur option is Rhinox hide based, and I think there are even a couple that have two different types of fur on them. Like, even if I wanted to paint this guy with two different types of fur, I probably could. So the fire, the ones that have the flaming brands, they don't mention it here, but you want to probably base coat it either in White Scar or Gray Seer. I usually use Gray Seer. So yeah, base coat it with yellow, and then the way I do it is not actually the same as they're doing it here, but the way they're telling you is you start with yellow, dry brush with a dark red, and then put another dry brush of brown, which is Rhinox hide, and then pick out white. So this is a different method than even they normally recommend. Like if you go to like Warhammer TV's YouTube channel, they this is totally a different method. So I might try this and see what it looks like. The method I like to use is actually to use a white base and then use Army Painter inks, which obviously they're not going to recommend that, but it would probably work with Citadel Contrast as well. Just use a yellow ink, let that dry, go over like 70% with an orange ink, let that dry, go over 70% of that step with a red ink, let that dry, and then do a little bit of black at the top. So it usually, that's what I did when I painted the Balrog, and it turned out really well. Gators, I've never heard of that term, but I guess this the wraps at their feet. Basically the Ronix hide, go over with Nuln Oil, and picking out the other details. Oh, I guess the gators are their feet, or their the little wrappings around their feet at the bottom of their feet. Basically the other wrappings with Morphang Brown, the quiver with Skaven Blight Dinge. Hairs, of course, are just gonna be Abaddon Black. Old Man hair is just gonna be Gray Seer. And they give you some tips for basing if you want to use their tips as well. I have my own mixture, but they give you, they say just use some sand and stone with PVA glue, which, that usually works perfectly fine. Interesting that they're not telling you to use their own like basing mud, so that's curious. Not that I have a problem with it, it's just not something you would expect to see. And that is the entire supplement. We got a little piece of artwork here. This looks like, this is not from the movie directly. It is a scene from the movie, but this is not like a still or anything from the movie. This is, I guess, like artwork. This is from whenever Hera's in her like Bride of Death outfit. Really cool. This is the same thing. This is not a still. This is like promotional artwork. I think it's got like Hera in the middle, Helm, and Holoth on one side, and Freka, Wolf, and Targ on the other side, and then Leaf is down here in the middle. So, really cool. Overall, seems like a really cool supplement. I'm really looking forward to trying the narrative campaign out. I do not have 72 Hill Tribesmen. I don't have 6 Royal Guards either. I don't have any Royal Guard actually, but to me that's not an issue. Like I have enough, or I can get enough models to proxy for that. But I can also I have a ton of orcs, so I just play with friends. So just using 60 orcs and 24 and 12 or however many Hill Tribesmen is not an issue. I don't really want to buy, let's see, I have 24, so however many, 48 more Hill Tribesmen just to run those scenarios is not really something I personally would want to do. But I still think the scenarios look really cool. I know some people were kind of disappointed that there was no match play content in here. I personally am totally fine with it. I think the game overall is in a very healthy state. I also think that adding match play to this would have probably doubled the price, and they would have also not included all this hobby content, which I really like. I know some people kind of don't care about the hobby content. They would want to take all the hobby content out, and they'd rather just replace that with some Legendary Legion rules or what have you. I'm not in that camp. I love the hobby content. I do think probably next year we will be getting a supplement with some match play rules in them. My own speculation will be that we're getting something for the Hobbit. That may not be what everybody wants to see, but I think that is what we will see. We haven't had a Hobbit supplement in quite a while, and I think Games Workshop probably also wants like a reason to update some of those really, really old Hobbit sculpts, like Azog, for example. There's a ton of Hobbit sculpts that are like fine cast only, and they want to push them into plastic. So I think having a Hobbit supplement would be a really good excuse for them to say like, oh, okay, here's a bunch of new Hobbit sculpts. that are going to go along with this new Hobbit supplement. And I think that would probably come out like in the first 6 months of next year. So that's my own speculation on the next supplement we'll get. If you have any ideas or speculations about what we're going to be getting next year or for the next supplement, feel free to leave them in the comments. Or if you have any other thoughts about War of the Rohirrim, what did you think about the movie or the supplement? Did you like it? Were you disappointed? Were you happy? Leave them in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.